The galaxy was a peaceful place. It had been peaceful for 300 years. Many different alien species lived together under something called the Galactic Concord. They traded with each other. They talked with each other. Sometimes they argued about small things like who owned which planet or which trade route belonged to whom. But there was no war. There was no blood. The galaxy had forgotten what real fear felt like. But there was one species that was not part of this peaceful family: humans. 2,000 years ago, the aliens had discovered Earth. They had sent scientists to study this new world and its creatures. What they found terrified them. Earth was a death world. Everything on that planet wanted to kill everything else. The weather was violent. The animals were violent. And the humans, the creatures who had risen to rule this terrible place, were the most violent of all. The aliens made a decision. They would not destroy the humans. That would be wrong. But they would not let them out either. They built a wall of satellites and warning beacons around the human solar system. They called it the quarantine zone. No alien ship was allowed to enter. No human ship was allowed to leave. The rest of the galaxy agreed that this was the wise choice. Let the dangerous primates stay in their cage. Let them fight among themselves until they burned out and died. But humans did not die. They grew quiet instead. And silence, as the galaxy would soon learn, was far more dangerous than noise. Ambassador was a member of the species. She had soft blue skin and large black eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. She was old for her kind, nearly 200 years, and she had spent most of her life working for peace between species. On this particular day, she was sitting in her office when her communication screen began to flash red. A distress signal from the system. Hearts, both of them, began to beat faster. The system was home to one of her people's largest mining colonies. Nearly 2 million lived there, digging precious metals from the rocky moons that circled the system's gas giant. She opened the message. The face that appeared on her screen was covered in blood. It was Supervisor, the colony's administrator. "Ambassador, please help us," said. Her voice was shaking. "They came from nowhere, hundreds of ships. They did not talk to us. They did not warn us. They just started killing. They call themselves the Dominion. Please, we need help, we need." The transmission cut off. Static filled the screen. Immediately sent emergency messages to every member of the Galactic Concord. She begged them to send ships, soldiers, anything. The responses came slowly. The Concord's peacekeeping fleet was spread across 1,000 star systems. It would take weeks to gather enough ships to fight this new enemy. And they were not waiting. Every day received reports of another colony falling. Another 1,000,000 lives lost. 3 worlds fell in 3 days. Stopped sleeping. She stopped eating. She watched the reports come in with growing horror. They were not like any enemy the Concord had faced before. They did not want territory. They did not want resources. They wanted to destroy. They wanted to conquer. They wanted to make the galaxy kneel before them. On the 4th day, did something desperate, something that had not been done in 1,000 years. She pointed her communication array at the quarantine zone around Sol system. She recorded a message, her voice breaking with exhaustion and fear. "This message is for anyone who can hear it. My name is Ambassador of the Collective. Our people are dying. An enemy called the Dominion is destroying everything in their path. The Galactic Concord cannot stop them. We have no one else to turn to. I know your people were locked away because the galaxy feared you. I know we treated you as monsters, but I am begging you now. If there is any kindness in your hearts, please help us. Please." She sent the message into the darkness. For 3 days, nothing happened. Continued her work, trying to organize the scattered, conquered forces into something that could slow the advance. She did not expect a response from the humans. Perhaps they were all dead. Perhaps they hated the galaxy too much to care. Perhaps they were exactly the monsters everyone believed them to be. On the 72nd hour after she sent the message, was sitting alone in her office. Her eyes were closed. She was trying to rest for just a few minutes. Her communication screen beeped. She opened her eyes and looked at the display. At first, she did not understand what she was seeing. The screen showed a map of the space just outside the quarantine zone. There were lights appearing on the map, ship signatures, one after another after another. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds. Thousands. Stood up so fast that she knocked her chair over. She stared at the screen with her mouth open. The ships kept coming. They poured out of the darkness like water breaking through a dam. The computer tried to count them and gave up after reaching 2,000. Then a message arrived. It was simple. Just a few words in the human language called English, translated automatically by her computer. "We heard you. We are coming. Hold fast." Fell to her knees. Tears ran down her blue face. She did not know if she should feel hope or terror. The monsters were awake. They were coming. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. Far beyond the planet Neptune, in the cold and empty space where no sunlight reached, humanity had been waiting. They called it the Long Watch. For over 1,000 years, generation after generation of humans had lived and died in the darkness between stars. They built ships in secret. They trained soldiers in silence. They watched the galaxy through hidden sensors and listened to alien communications that were never meant for human ears. And they waited for the day when they would be needed. That day had finally come. Fleet Admiral was 73 years old. His hair was white and his face was covered with wrinkles, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was sharper. He had spent 40 years serving in the Black Fleet, just like his father before him and his grandmother before that. His family had given 5 generations to the Long Watch. They had never fired a weapon in anger. They had never seen real combat, but they had trained every single day as if war would come tomorrow. Was sitting in his quarters aboard the command ship Eternal Resolve when the alien message arrived. He listened to it 3 times. The fear in the alien woman's voice was real. The desperation was real. He had waited his entire life for this moment, and now that it was here, he felt strangely calm. He pressed a button on his desk. "This is Admiral. I am calling an emergency meeting of the High Command Council. All members report to the war room immediately." Within 1 hour, the 7 most powerful people in the Black Fleet were gathered around a large circular table. There was Admiral, a woman with cold eyes and a reputation for never smiling. There was Admiral, who commanded the heavy assault carriers. There was Director from Military Intelligence, who knew more about alien species than anyone else alive. And there was General, the leader of the Marine Expeditionary Force, a man built like a mountain with hands that could crush metal. Played the alien distress signal for them. When it finished, the room was silent. "They locked us in a cage," Admiral said. Her voice was bitter. "They called us animals. They left us to rot in the dark for 2,000 years, and now they want our help." "The Conquered did not send this message," Director replied. "One ambassador did. One person, desperate enough to reach out to the monsters under the bed." "It does not matter who sent it," General said. He cracked his knuckles loudly. "What matters is what we do with it. They are killing innocent people, children, families. Are we going to sit here and watch?" Admiral shook her head. "If we go out there, we prove them right. We prove that humans are violent creatures who cannot stay in their cage." "No," Admiral said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "If we go out there and do nothing but kill, then yes, we prove them right. But if we go out there and protect the weak, save the innocent, and fight only against those who would destroy, then we prove something else. We prove that they were wrong about us all along." The debate lasted for 2 more hours. Some admirals wanted to stay hidden. Some wanted to attack the Conquered itself, to punish them for centuries of isolation. But in the end, the vote was 4-3 in favor of helping. "Stood up, send the signal, wake the fleet." The Black Fleet was not one fleet. It was many. Ships had been hidden throughout the outer solar system, buried in asteroid fields, hidden behind moons, floating silent and cold in the endless dark. When the activation signal went out, they all began to move at once. First came the destroyers, small and fast like wolves hunting in packs. Then came the cruisers, bristling with weapons and armor. Then came the battleships, each one large enough to carry a small city inside its hull. And finally, rising from the darkness like ancient giants waking from sleep, came the dreadnoughts. These were the largest ships humanity had ever built. They were 2 kilometers long, covered in guns and missile launchers and energy shields. They had never been used in real combat. They had been waiting for an enemy worthy of their power. 2,847 ships gathered together for the first time in human history. Their running lights blazed against the blackness of space, a river of fire flowing toward the quarantine boundary. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, Admiral watched his fleet assemble. Beside him stood his aide, Lieutenant, a young woman who had never seen anything beyond the solar system. "Sir," said softly, "are you afraid?" Thought about the question. "No," he said. "I have been afraid my whole life. Afraid that we would never have a chance to prove ourselves. Afraid that we would die in the dark, forgotten by everyone. Now that chance is here. Now I am not afraid. I am ready." The fleet crossed the quarantine boundary at exactly midnight, Earth time. The ancient warning beacons recorded their passage but could do nothing to stop them. Alarms went off across a dozen alien monitoring stations. Diplomats woke from their sleep to find impossible news on their screens. The humans were coming out. As the last ship crossed the boundary, Admiral opened a channel to all frequencies. "To all who can hear this message, we are the United Earth Emergency Response Armada. We have heard your cry for help. We are coming. To those who are afraid, hold on. To those who are suffering, we will find you. And to those who bring death and destruction to the innocent, know this, your time is over. They are awake. And we do not forgive, we do not forget, we do not stop." The Black Fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving nothing behind but silence and the fatting echoes of their engines. The galaxy held its breath. The monsters were loose. The mining colony on IV had been under attack for 8 days. 2 million civilians were hiding underground, packed into emergency bunkers that were never designed to hold so many people. The air was running out. The water was running out. Above them, the fleet circled like vultures waiting for their prey to die. Supervisor had not slept since the attack began. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She had sent the distress signal. She had begged for help, but no help had come. The small fleet of and defenders fought bravely in orbit, but they were losing. Every hour, another friendly ship exploded. Every hour, they grew closer to breaking through. On the 8th day, gathered the other colony leaders in the deepest bunker. Her voice was tired but calm. "The shields above us will fail within 6 hours, she said. "When that happens, they will bomb the surface. We will all die." She paused. "I want to thank all of you for your courage. I want you to know that I am proud to have served with you." One of the other leaders, an old male named Supervisor, raised his hand. "What about the signal you sent to the humans?" Shook her head. "That was foolish hope. The humans have been locked away for 2,000 years. Even if they wanted to help, they probably cannot. Their ships are probably ancient and slow. We should not have expected." An alarm interrupted her. It was not the attack alarm. It was something else, something that had never sounded before. Ran to the communication station. Her fingers flew across the controls. "What is happening? Report." The officer at the station looked up at her with wide eyes. "Ma'am, there are new ships arriving. Many new ships. They are coming out of hyperspace directly behind the fleet." "Conquered reinforcements." "No, ma'am, the ship's signatures. They do not match anything in our database." The officer paused. "Wait, we are receiving a transmission." A human voice filled the bunker. It spoke in heavily accented but clear galactic standard. "Attention all vessels. This is Captain of the United Earth Destroyer Silent Thunder. You have exactly 30 seconds to withdraw from this system. After that, we will destroy you. This is your only warning." The bunker was completely silent. stared at the communication screen with her mouth open. Then, from somewhere behind her, someone laughed. It was Supervisor. "They came," he whispered. "They actually came." In orbit above the planet, Captain stood on the bridge of her ship. She was 34 years old, with short black hair and a scar running down her left cheek from a training accident. She had never seen real combat before. None of them had, but she felt no fear, only a strange, burning excitement. "Captain," her sensor officer reported, "they are not withdrawing. They are turning to face us." Smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Good, all ships weapons free. Show them what can do." The Battle of IV began with a single shot from the Silent Thunder. The projectile traveled at 1/10 the speed of light and hit a cruiser directly in the engine section. The cruiser exploded instantly. Before the debris had finished spreading, 100 more human ships opened fire. They had never faced an enemy like this. Their ships were powerful, yes. They had conquered a dozen species with those ships, but they had always fought enemies who were afraid, enemies who tried to negotiate, enemies who ran. Humans did none of those things. Human ships flew directly at the enemy, dodging and weaving with impossible speed. Human gunners fired with deadly accuracy, targeting weak points that they did not even know they had. Human captains laughed as they flew through explosions and debris fields that would have killed any other species. Captain's ship danced through the battlefield like a ghost. "Helm, bring us around the back of that battleship. Guns, target their reactor core on my mark." "Captain, that will put us inside their point defense range." "I know, do it anyway." The Silent Thunder swooped under the belly of a battleship, so close that could see the individual weapon turrets trying to track them. "Fire," she said calmly. The roared. The battleship's reactor exploded from the inside. The blast wave hit the Silent Thunder and sent it spinning, but the helmsman was already compensating, using the momentum to swing them toward their next target. "Damage report," ordered. "Minor hull damage, 2 injuries, no deaths." "Then we keep fighting." The battle lasted 9 hours. By the end, the fleet had been completely destroyed. 67 enemy ships turned to burning wreckage. 12 human ships were lost. Over 3,000 human soldiers died, but they had won. In her bunker, Supervisor listened to the battle reports with tears streaming down her face. When the all-clear signal finally came, she walked outside for the first time in 8 days. The sky above her was filled with human ships, their running lights glowing like stars. A shuttle landed nearby. The door opened, and a human woman stepped out. She was wearing a military uniform covered in smoke stains and burn marks. Her left arm was wrapped in a bandage that was slowly turning red with blood. "Supervisor?" the woman asked. Nodded, unable to speak. The woman extended her hand. "I am Captain. We received your people's message. I am sorry we took so long." Took the hand and held it tightly. You came. They said humans were monsters. They said you would never help anyone." Captain looked at the sky, at the wreckage of the fleet burning up in the atmosphere. "We were monsters once," she said quietly, "but monsters can change. Monsters can choose what they want to become." She looked back at and smiled. "Today, we chose to be something better." News of the Battle of IV spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every news channel, every communication network, every whispered conversation in every corner of known space talked about the same thing. The humans had come out. They had broken their quarantine, and they had saved 2 million lives. Some species celebrated. They held festivals in honor of their rescuers. The who had lost ships defending IV sent formal messages of gratitude. Smaller species, those who had always feared being conquered by stronger neighbors, began to hope that maybe, finally, someone would protect them. But other species were not happy. The proud warrior race, who considered themselves the greatest fighters in the galaxy, demanded that the humans return to their quarantine immediately. A species of cold and logical beings who controlled much of the galaxy's banking system, warned that human involvement would destabilize the careful balance of power that had kept peace for 3 centuries. And the High Council, despite being grateful for the rescue, worried about what the humans would want in return. The Galactic Concord called an emergency assembly. Every member species sent representatives to the Great Meeting Hall on the neutral world of Concordia Prime. For the first time in history, humanity was invited to speak. Admiral arrived with only 2 companions, Lieutenant, his young aide, and a translator robot that floated beside them. He wore his full dress uniform, covered with medals that no alien had ever seen before. His white hair was combed back neatly, and his old eyes scanned the massive hall with quiet curiosity. Thousands of alien faces stared back at him. Some looked afraid, some looked angry, some looked hopeful, walked to the speaking platform in the center of the hall and stood there, alone, facing them all. "I am Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Emergency Response Armada," he said. His voice was calm and steady. "I am here to answer your questions." The ambassador spoke first. He was a large creature with 4 arms and a face full of sharp teeth. "You broke the quarantine. This is a violation of galactic law. Your ship should be destroyed and your people should be punished." Nodded. "You are correct. We broke the quarantine. We did it because innocent people were dying and no one else was saving them. If you want to destroy our ships and punish our people, you are welcome to try. But I suggest you ask the how well that worked for them." Angry murmurs filled the hall. The ambassador sat down, his face twisted with rage. The representative spoke next. She was a tall, thin creature with silver skin and no visible emotions. "What do you want, Admiral? No species acts without self-interest. What payment do you expect for your assistance?" "We want nothing," said. "We were locked away for 2,000 years because the galaxy feared us. During that time, we had many discussions about what kind of people we wanted to be. Some of us wanted revenge. Some of us wanted conquest, but most of us decided that we wanted something else. We wanted to prove that we could be better than the monsters you imagined." He paused and looked around the hall. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to rule. We are here because there is an enemy that threatens innocent lives and we have the power to stop them. When they are defeated, we will return to our system and leave you alone, unless you want us to stay." A small voice spoke up from the back of the hall. It was Ambassador, the woman who had sent the original distress signal. "I believe him," she said. "I was there when his ships arrived at IV. They could have demanded anything from us. They could have taken our resources or our technology. Instead, they asked only for permission to help, and then they died protecting our people." The debate continued for many hours. Some species voted to accept human help. Others voted to refuse it. In the end, the assembly agreed to allow humanity to assist in the war against but only temporarily. Human ships would operate under Concord oversight. Human soldiers would follow Concord rules, and when the war was over, humanity would return to their quarantine. Admiral accepted these terms without argument. He knew that trust had to be earned slowly. While the politicians talked, the war continued. The Dominion had not stopped their advance. They had conquered 3 more systems during the assembly meeting alone. Their overlord, a massive creature named, sent a message to the entire galaxy. "The primate aberrations think they can stop us," said in his deep, rumbling voice. "They are wrong. We have crushed 100 species. We will crush them too, and then we will crush everyone who helped them." General watched this message from his command ship. He was a big man with arms like tree trunks and a face that looked like it was carved from stone. He had trained for combat his entire life, and he was tired of waiting. "Find me the Overlord's flagship," he said to his staff. "Sir, that ship is in the middle of enemy territory. It would be suicide to attack it directly." Smiled, it was a cold, dangerous smile. "I did not ask for your opinion, I asked for the location." 3 days later, a small assault ship dropped out of hyperspace next to the Overlord's flagship. It fired no weapons. It launched no missiles. Instead, it flew directly at the flagship and crashed into its landing bay. General led 50 Marines out of the wreckage. They were wearing heavy combat armor and carrying weapons that could punch through walls. They fought their way through the ship, killing every warrior who stood in their path. 400 enemy soldiers died in 2 hours. When finally reached the bridge, the Overlord was waiting for him. Was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with claws that could tear through steel. "You are brave," said. "Stupid but brave. Do you have any last words before I kill you?" Raised his weapon. "Just 2, watch this." The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it was over, General stood over the body of the Overlord. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but he was alive. He took out a can of spray paint that he had brought with him and wrote 2 words on the viewport of the bridge, where every ship in the fleet could see them. "We decline." Then he walked back to his assault ship and flew away, leaving chaos and confusion behind him. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The humans had just assassinated the leader of the most powerful military force anyone had ever seen, and they had done it with 50 soldiers and a can of paint. For the first time in their history, the Dominion knew fear, and they knew that fear had a name. Human. It was the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships pushed deep into territory, liberating world after world that had been conquered. They fought in asteroid fields and around dying stars. They fought on frozen moons and in the burning clouds of gas giants. They died by the thousands, but they never stopped. They never retreated. They never gave up. Captain, who had led the first battle at IV, became one of the most famous officers in the fleet. She was promoted 4 times during the war. Her ship, the Silent Thunder, was destroyed twice and rebuilt twice. Her crew called her the Iron Captain because nothing seemed to stop her. Not enemy fire, not injuries, not even losing her left arm during a battle in the Crimson Nebula. When the medics wanted to send her back to Earth, she refused. "Give me a robot arm," she said. "I will keep fighting." They gave her a robot arm. She kept fighting. Admiral did not survive the war. He died during the Battle of Sgate, a massive fight between 300 human ships and 500 warships. They had set a trap, and its fleet was surrounded. Escape was possible, but only if someone stayed behind to draw enemy fire. Ordered his crew to abandon ship. Then he flew the Eternal Resolve directly at the enemy fleet alone. His ship's guns blazed until they melted from the heat. His shields failed one by one. Enemy shots tore through his hull. His last transmission was recorded by the ships that escaped. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "This is what we were made for," he said. Tell them we were not monsters, we were guardians." The Eternal Resolve exploded, but the fleet escaped. Sacrifice saved over 50,000 lives. Admiral took command of the Black Fleet after his death. She was a harder woman than colder and more ruthless. Some of the other species feared her, but she was exactly what the fleet needed. She pushed the war forward faster than anyone thought possible. "We will not drag this out," she told her officers. "Every day this war continues, innocent people die. We will end it. We will end it now." Under her command, the human fleet attacked target after target without rest. They destroyed shipyards. They captured fuel depots. They freed slave planets where millions of aliens had been worked to death in factories and mines. And slowly, steadily, they pushed toward the fought back with everything they had. They sent wave after wave of ships against the human advance. They used weapons that had been forbidden by galactic law for centuries. They even tried to surrender once, but it was a trap, and Admiral never fell for the same trick twice. The final battle took place above the. It was a planet of dark clouds and red lightning, as angry and violent as the species that lived there. They had gathered every ship they had left, nearly 1,000 vessels, for one last stand. Against them stood what remained of the Black Fleet, 400 ships, battered and from 2 years of constant fighting. Many of them had been repaired so many times that almost nothing of the original hull remained. Their crews were exhausted. Their supplies were running low, but their spirits were unbroken. Admiral stood on the bridge of her new flagship, a dreadnought named Legacy. She looked at the enemy fleet on her display screen and felt something strange. Not fear, not anger, something like satisfaction. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral. 2 years ago, we left our home to answer a call for help. We were told that we were monsters. We were told that the galaxy would never accept us. But we came anyway because we believed we could be something more." She paused. "Today we end this war. Today we prove that they are not just killers. We are protectors. We are guardians, and we never ever stop fighting for what is right." Her voice grew hard. "All ships attack, no mercy, no retreat, for everyone who died to get us here, for everyone we came to save, for humanity." The battle of the lasted 3 days. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. Ships exploded like fireworks. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. The sky above the planet turned orange with burning wreckage falling through the atmosphere. Captain led the final assault. Her new ship, the Silent Thunder III, flew straight through the enemy defensive line. Behind her came 100 other destroyers, following her into the heart of the enemy formation. "All guns, maximum fire," she ordered. "Do not stop until there is nothing left." When the battle was over, the Dominion had ceased to exist. Their fleet was destroyed. Their government had collapsed. They were surrounded by human ships that would ensure they never threatened anyone again. The galaxy was finally at peace. In the years that followed, everything changed. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Concord as a full member. The quarantine was lifted forever. Human ships traveled freely among the stars, and humans walked openly on worlds that had once feared to speak their name. The Black Fleet was reformed into the Concord Joint Defense Force. Human officers trained soldiers from dozens of species in the arts of war. Human ships patrolled the borders of known space, protecting the weak from those who would harm them. Ambassador, the woman who had sent the desperate signal that started it all, became the new Secretary General of the Galactic Concord. At her inauguration ceremony, she spoke about the humans who had answered her call. "They were called monsters," she said. "They were locked away in the dark because the galaxy was afraid of what they might become. But when we needed them most, they came. They fought for us. They died for us. And they asked for nothing in return." She looked at the human delegation in the audience. Admiral sat in the front row, her face expressionless as always. Beside her sat Captain, her robot arm gleaming under the lights. And behind them sat thousands of human soldiers, sailors, and officers who had survived the war. "I have learned something important," continued. "Monsters are not made by nature. They are made by choice. And these so-called monsters chose to be heroes. They chose to protect instead of destroy. They chose to save instead of conquer. They proved that even the most dangerous species in the galaxy can become the greatest force for good." She smiled. "They came from the dark, and they brought the light with them." In the audience, Admiral allowed herself a small smile. It was the first time anyone had ever seen her smile. Beside her, Captain wiped a tear from her eye with her robot hand. They had been called monsters. They had been locked away and forgotten. But they had answered the call when it mattered. They had fought the war that needed fighting. And they had proven, once and for all, that humanity was more than its worst impulses. The war was over. The darkness was defeated. And they had finally found their place among the stars. Not as monsters. As guardians. Forever.